basically mean here? What is going to be the categorization of the moderates and the extremists? So here the first aspect of the moderates and the extremists is that the moderates, these particular people, they are going to be, moderates, they were constitutional in nature. Moderates, they were constitutional in nature, whereas extremists, they are going to be extra constitutional in nature. Now what is constitutional and what is extra constitutional? Now, in the previous session, I had given you a brief idea as to what is constitutional and what is extra constitutional. That means a constitution is a document that is going to entail the laws and regulations that are required to govern the country. So when the Britishers were there in India, obviously they are also going to bring in certain type of laws and regulations which can be considered as the constitution. And those particular laws and regulations are going to permit the Indians to address their grievances through certain political activities, and those political activities were writing petitions. So the British laws in India, they did not allow the people of India to do protest and everything to get their grievances redressed. So petitions and prayers and those were allowed. So when I'm telling that the moderates are constitutional, so their methodology in carrying out the political activity, it is also going to be constitutional, wherein they are going to be doing the petition, prayer and propaganda. So it can be generally said to be the three P's of the moderates. So whatever the constitution allowed in the political activity, these people, they generally focused on that. But what the constitution did not allow, the extremists, they are going to be doing that. So obviously the British laws will not allow the people of India to go on protest, to strike, to boycott, okay, to promote Swadeshi goods, to promote the indigenous goods. The British laws are not going to be discriminative towards the foreign goods. The British laws are not going to provide that. Okay. So yet, in spite of the British laws not allowing that as a political activity, the extremists did that only. So that became what? Extra constitutional, something that is beyond the constitution. However, whenever you are doing the things beyond the constitution, you are yet doing it in a non-violent manner. Okay, they also promoted non-violence. It is not that they are going to be the people who are violent, they are also non-violent. Okay, and the moderates, they were also non-violent, because when we talk about these things, there were three categories of sections. One is going to be the moderate, second is going to be the extremist, and third it is going to be the revolutionary. Now in this, when we talk the first section, okay, that is the moderates, these moderates, they were non-violent in nature. Okay, because they were constitutional, and the constitution does not, or any laws does not provide for violence. Extremists, they were also non-violent, but they were extra constitutional. And when I'm telling extra constitutional, so they are going to believe in some aspects of the constitution, but only in order to fulfill their demands, they are going to adopt to some extra constitutional mechanisms, because they would believe that only, getting our demands, only talking to the Britishers on our demands through petitions, prayers and propaganda, the Britishers would not fulfill, and that is why we'll have to do something extra in order to get our demands fulfilled. And the third category was the revolutionary, who were violent. And because they were violent, these people, they were also known as non-constitutional. That means obviously the revolutionary people, they are not going to accept to the laws and regulations that were created by the British at that point of time. So that is the categorization. Now when we talk about, now we'll also look into, we have already looked into the moderates, okay, in the previous session. Now we, in this session also, we'll look into the extremist also, that what was the major aspect of extremists, that what is going to be the features and what is going to be their reasons for the rise. But prior to discussing that, let us just understand what are the other characteristic features of this particular segment. Okay, that is the moderates and the extremists. Now, when we talk about the moderates, their social base, it is going to be from the zamindari and the upper classes who resided in the towns, whereas the extremists, they are going to belong to the lower towns. Okay, so the moderates, they are somewhat going to be the older, the moderates, they were also known as the early nationalist, whereas the extremists, they were known as the younger nationalist. Both of them, they were educated in nature, but their education, it is going to vary. The moderates, because they were the early nationalists, they were educated in the British education. They were aware about the British philosophies, the Western school of thought. Whereas these people, they were majorly, means they also were educated in the Western aspect, means they also were educated from the Western education, but they were much more inclined towards the Indian education. So these people, they believed in the Western ideas more, and these people believed in the Indian ideas more. These people believed that having the relation with the Britishers would be in the favor of the country, because the Britishers, they were on the Providential mission. Britishers were on the Providential mission. So these moderates, they believed in the Britishers' Providential mission theory. What was the Providential mission theory? It was basically wherein the Britishers would come and develop India. Whereas these people rejected the Providential mission theory, because they believed that the Britishers are just coming to India in order to loot India. And that is why these people, the extremists, did not want any relations to be maintained with Britain. They wanted to cut down the relations with Britain. But here the moderates, they are going to believe that there should be political connections with Britain, because these connections, it would help India in the social, political and cultural interest. But these people, the extremists, believe that the political connection, if it is there, it would just lead to exploitation of the Indians. So that is there. Moreover, when we talk about the moderates, because of this, the moderates, they are going to generally profess loyalty to the British crown, whereas the extremists, they are going to think that the loyalty, okay, the Britishers, they did not, they were not valuable to our loyalty. And that is when the moderates main aims and objectives is also going to be understood, that the moderates, they just demanded certain constitutional reforms, and those reforms, and share for Indians in the services. Those constitutional reforms can be in the polity, can be in the economy, can be in the society. That means the early nationalists, they just wanted that the Indians be included in the administrations, okay, in the political power. The Indians be included in the legislative council, so that the Indians could be participant in the making of the laws. The Indians should get a bit of economic powers. Okay, that means in the industries, then there is going to be the power of the purse responsibility to given to the Indians in the parliament. That economic power, social, a little bit of social development could happen. So the moderates, they generally believed in these ideals. They thought that the Britishers would give them this, and they are going to demand this through the 3 Ps. They are going to demand this through the petition, prayer, propaganda. However, here what do we understand is that these people, they are going to demand Swaraj. Okay, these people, they are going to be demanding Swaraj. Now, when we talk about Swaraj, what is going to be the Swaraj? So, Swaraj itself, it is going to have two major connotations. The first aspect of Swaraj, it is going to be the fully independence, and the second aspect of Swaraj, it is going to be the self-government. Okay, independence and self-government. Now, here what we need to understand is that the extremists, they are going to demand the Swaraj. Now, what do we know about the time period of extremists? It is from 1905 till 1911 or 1918 generally. Okay, so here when we are telling that the extremists, they are going to demand Swaraj, I am not telling that the extremists were, okay, only between 1905 to 1911. Okay, I will explain this. do not worry. So when we are telling that these people demanded Swaraj, so Swaraj is going to have two major interpretations. One is that full independence and complete independence, and second is self-government. So here when I'm talking about complete independence, so what do we know about complete independence is that the first idea of India getting complete independence, it came up in the year of 1927. Okay, and here it was brought by Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, so obviously here the time period is 1905 till 1911, 1918. So obviously their Swaraj is not going to be complete independence, because the idea of complete independence itself came in the year of 1927. Okay, in the Madras Congress session in 1927, there was the Madras session of INC, within which the Jawaharlal Nehru had introduced a resolution for complete independence. And the other interpretation of Swaraj is going to be self-government. What does self-government mean? It means that the whole of the country is going to be governed by the Indians. Only the viceroy and the higher authority, the most higher authority, it is going to be the British. That means the Indians are going to rule the India under the British. So that was self-government. So here the interpretation of Swaraj is going to be self-government. Okay, generally it is going to be self-government. Now I'm not telling that for all the extremist nationalist, means obviously there is not these all what we are talking, okay, on the categorization of moderates and extremists. It is not going to be only pertaining to one moderate and one extremist. No, there were multiple entities who were known as moderates, means multiple individuals who were moderates and multiple individuals who were extremists. So it is just a gist of what the moderate ideology was, what the extremist ideology was. And when I'm telling that Swaraj is going to mean self-government, it could be for the majority of the extremists, but not for all extremists. Because in history there is no extremes. In history you cannot give a blanket statement that all of them, yeah, none of them. You cannot give a blanket statement there, because in history if you give a blanket statement, that is totally going to be irrelevant, because there would obviously be someone in the opposite. So your majority of the extremists, they believe in self government. However, some like Aurobindo Ghosh, they believed in a complete independence, whereas some believed in self government. However, the majority of the extremist ideology at this point of time, because the extremists, they were also a part of the Congress only, they were also a part of the Indian nationalism. So Indian nationalism at that point of time had not accepted the complete independence, because for the first time the idea of complete independence came in 1927. So here that is why Swaraj would mean what? It would mean self-government. Okay, so this is going to be there. The most important point I would like to mention here is that it is going to be that the moderates, they are going to believe that the political struggle should be limited to the intelligent classes. That means it should be limited to the middle class. Okay, the people who were educated enough, and it should not be widespread within the masses. The moderates believed in that. Why? Because they believed that the masses, they were not yet ready. The masses were not that much politically educated to participate in the political movements, and it should only be done by the political class, by the political community, who should be writing petitions and everything to the government. So they believed that the political movement should be limited to the political class and should not include the general masses, whereas the extremists believed in the capacity of the masses. The extremists told that the political movements, okay, should also be conducted by the masses, because only when there is popular pressure there can be the attainment of demands, and that is what we had seen in the Swadeshi movement also, and anti-partition. So the moderates, they did the anti-partition, and not masses are not going to be that majorly participating in the anti-partition. But in the Swadeshi movement, the masses had participated at large numbers, because the extremists were steering the movement, and the extremists were of the idea that The masses had immense capacity. So that is going to be the another scenario.